I'm Professor Yehuda Kahana from Tel Aviv University in Israel. I'm an actuary, both on life and non-life, and I'm doing a lot of work on risk management and also on demographics. And today we shall touch the topic of technological waves and developments and their impact on demography. One of the most important changes that is taking place in this new world is a demographic change. The process is described briefly with this schematic graph. The new development change the birth rates and mortality rates. So if we have at the first stage mortality rates and birth rates are more or less fluctuating at the same level, and therefore the population stays more or less constant. When suddenly the industrialization process starts, both rates, the birth rates and the mortality rates decline. However, what happens is that the mortality rate declines sharply and immediately when the process starts, whereas the birth rate declines gradually, slowly. It takes years to do, and then you see the major decline only at a much later stage. So it may take from here to here, it may take 70 years, 100 years. And during that period, there is a growth of our population, a substantial growth, as we shall see, and the whole age structure of the population changes. And then, finally, the birth rates, after going through the long process of cultural and religious barriers, it declines and reaches a new mode of operation where the birth and mortality rates are more or less same. So the first stage in the demography is many people are born, a few die. This creates what is called a baby boom. The baby boom is not necessarily a result of the Second World War. It's just a demographic result from the Industrial Revolution. And then the second stage is a large increase in schools, and then in the third stage, a large number of people reach their working ages, and they are with us for many decades. And then 70, 80 years later, there is a geriatric boom. Some countries are already facing it. Let's see the process through a very simple graph. This graph is called population pyramid. This is a typical graph for an agrarian country. In an agrarian country, you have a very large number of kids, of very young kids. The first group, this blue line, is for age 0 to 5. So a very large group here, then the next group, etc., and a small number of people at high ages. This is a typical graph for any agrarian country. This specifically represents the Pakistani graph for the year 2000. The second stage is when industrialization process starts. At that time, the kids that were born continue to survive for the next group. Ethiopia, the forecast for Ethiopia in 2025 is a pyramid which is less pointed and a stronger and a much heavier base. India, in the year 2000, was already in the process of industrialization, and therefore it is not the same wide base of pyramid as before. But India, 15 years from now, will look like that. And in the year 2050 is expected to be like that. Look about another country. Brazil have been already in the industrialization stage for many years. And so you see that the pyramid doesn't have its base. However, the birth rate have started to decline already. So Brazil in the year 2000 had a new kind of trend in comparison to the previous graphs. And Brazil in the year 2025 is expected to be like this. In other words, the population pyramids, after industrialization, after 50, 60 years of industrialization, they start to develop a flower pot shape rather than a pyramid. Another effect relates to health issues. The survival curves have changed dramatically. Survival curves are the description of mortality tables. Here in the graph, we have percent of the population that survive at each point, and on the horizontal axis, we have age groups, 25, 50, 75, etc. In ancient times, let's say ancient Rome, at the age of 25, or only about a quarter of the population have survived. It's amazing. So most people died before that age. Those that survived beyond 25 were already regarded old people. However, in recent years, in the 20th century, the changes were extremely dramatic. You see that this took thousands of years, and here we are talking about decades, and the changes are remarkable. Then there are the environmental risks. The environmental risks have also contribution to the health and longevity. Increasing population, increasing per capita consumption, increased consumption in total, increased pollution in the world, and this increases problems and the environmental risks. We have a much talk and conversation about global warming, but global warming is just one little part of the environmental risk. There are many additional effects of pollution. The percentage of people that have problems of safety of water, for example, in some countries, and you see that large populations and a much increasing population in these countries are going to suffer from very heavy problems. So, just to conclude, the industrial revolutions and the technological waves have created tremendous changes in the population, in the age structure of population, in life expectancy, etc. It created the baby boom effect, which changed the entire structure of populations from pyramids into flower pots models. It changed our perception of our goals and desires. The post-industrial person is individualistic and cherishes the personal freedom. It creates a problem to us because we have a clash between the me and the we, because the mutual dependency of the people becomes very obvious right now. What we are doing now in the post-industrial world affects all our neighbors. Each product, the thing that I'm holding in my hand, this remote control, is a product of probably of 30 countries. So it involves pollution in many places, and it involves the work and employment of many people. It involves the way of living of many people. So we become very dependent on each other right now. In this crowded world, we are very, very dependent. So we have to find solutions for that. The sooner, the better. All the forecasts are showing, the biodiversity outlook, for example, show that we have maybe 20 years at most to change our behavior, drastically change our behavior. Otherwise, we shall not be here. The planet will continue to survive without mankind. And I thank you for the attention, and I hope you liked it.